Welcome to the Starfighter Podcast.
Welcome back to the Starfighter Podcast, where we talk about everything nerdy here on the channel. And of course, tonight we are going over our Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 2 spoiler-heavy review. As always, your two co-hosts, Dom and Jake. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Yeah, another great episode. Looking forward to talking about it some more.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to talk about it as well. We do have a special guest. He's running a little bit late, but he will be here. So that'll be fun. But before we get started, if you're not already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Continue to support us here on our YouTube channel, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the different platforms. Continue to show your support that way. Leave a like, leave a comment, join the conversation. We'd appreciate hearing from you and seeing what you picked out of this episode, what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy. We want to hear about it. But all right, let's get right into it. So let's just go over our first initial thoughts on this episode. Jake, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I thought it was good. Another good episode. I think I liked the first one a little bit more just because it got into, their personal lives and everything like that. But with only 6 episodes, you got to imagine that they're going to get the action started pretty quickly, which they did. And that's not a bad thing at all. But it was definitely a lot of cool scenes and introducing new characters, which is pretty interesting. Trying to figure out, who's good and who's bad. And this whole thing has been pretty cool to see. But yeah, another really good episode.
Totally agree with all that. I did want to ask, did you ever feel like at times, maybe even a little bit in episode 1, that it kind of drug on a little bit with trying to provide maybe a little too much context, almost like they could trust the audience a little bit more? You know what I mean? Because I feel like the majority of the audience watching it is going to be those diehard Marvel fans. I mean, there's definitely going to be more casual fans, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I could see that a little bit. And it is strange that anybody would watch this without seeing Endgame. I don't understand why you would. Just my personal preference. I like to have all the context. So in case anybody missed it, Captain America, well, he retired, but everybody thinks he's dead. And so, yeah, they definitely did set that up a lot more. Of course, everything has to tie back into the events of Endgame with the blip and everything like that. Obviously, something on that level doesn't just get brushed away. So they definitely do bring it up like in WandaVision in this show, which is fine. But yeah, people like us definitely know what's going on. But yeah, I can see how it kind of drags a little bit.
Right, for sure. So yeah, I think we would probably just get right into it. I echo all the things that you said. I thought it was great. I need to watch it maybe one more time, see how I like it compared to episode 1. I might be with you there too, and kind of prefer episode 1 a little bit more. But there were some really cool things, and definitely like some Easter eggs too that will give us a lot of things to speculate on and some predictions for later. So let's go ahead and get started. We can start with this opening. We've got John Walker stepping into the role of the new Captain America. He's given the speech at his old high school, and he's doing the Good Morning America show. What are your thoughts on this opening scene? And now that we have a little bit more from John Walker, what are your thoughts on him, his character, as far as being, a genuine person, his motives behind this role?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to see it start out like this, with becoming Captain America. I wasn't too clear on how many days or how much time had passed between episode 1 and 2, because he seems pretty established as in this episode, when he was just introduced in the last one. But he didn't look as bad in this episode, because I felt like just that shot last time was terrible. I mean, it just did not look right.
Yeah.
But it's nice to learn about him a little bit more. I really enjoyed that scene of him with the footage of him like practicing with the shield and everything. And it really makes you wonder like who he is, because obviously nobody, including fans and Buck and Falcon, don't want anybody to replace Captain America. That's just kind of how it is. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad guy. I think throughout this episode, he showed a little bit of cockiness at times, but generally trying to do the right thing. And as far as we know from his origin in that little briefing in the beginning of the episode, he's just a solid guy, good soldier, top marks in all of his classes and everything. He's got, his friend, his girl, and just seems like a pretty nice, normal guy. And so I'll be interested to see how his character develops from here on out.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree too. His motives do seem good for the most part, kind of trying to do the right thing. At the same time, I feel like there were a couple of little moments that kind of hint at there being some kind of ulterior motive, and maybe he could be bad again. I think my theory last week was maybe him and Zemo could be tied together somehow, but I guess we'll see, and we'll get more into that later. It was really interesting, that opening shot, and it was good to get more from his character and learn a little bit more about him. I thought that was really nice. And yeah, we can go ahead and move on now to where Bucky finally meets up with Sam. I really enjoyed this scene as well. We see Sam, he's on his way out on his mission to go, and he's investigating the flag smashers. So he's going to try and go and intercept them. But we get this scene with them, finally, this reintroduction where they meet up after not seeing each other. It's probably been months, I would assume. Bucky's kind of been dodging his text messages a little bit, but he meets up. Bucky's obviously not happy. He's holding on to some anger, some resentment, it seems like, because he doesn't agree with Sam giving up the shield. Well, we understand more of why he feels like that later on, which I think is important. But how did you like this scene, Jake? And they're meeting up again here.
Yeah, I thought Bucky was really good in this scene. Just again, getting into more of his feelings about this. He did definitely have words on it later in the episodes about why he's upset with Sam giving up the shield. I always kind of thought maybe he was upset that he didn't get it in the first place, but there's reasons why and everything like that. But yeah, he's definitely has a right to be upset about the whole new Captain America too. I liked how during his interview in the beginning, he says that although he never met Steve Rogers, that he feels like a brother to him. When and Bucky's watching that, and it's like they were basically brothers, and for him to say that, it definitely irks him. But
yeah, he's like, don't even right now, right. Man.
Exactly. But yeah, just them meeting up. I do like their relationship. Like you were saying, they probably haven't seen each other in a while, but they dislike each other, but they're cool going along with each other because they both have the same intentions. And it really makes for a good friendship and team up. And I really enjoyed that in the episode.
Yeah, me too. And later on, they hint at them having to team up temporarily, and then kind of give this idea of them parting ways. But it's my guess that they're going to team up and then kind of realize that, that they're more alike than they thought, and maybe more like brothers too, in that sense, and that they'll probably continue to work together. But that's my guess.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Just going forward in the future of Marvel, whether one of them takes up the mantle of Captain or not, I could definitely see them both being leaders, at least in the way that Cap was, that he kind of involved in the politics and working with the governments and everything like that, whereas Iron Man on the other side is doing his own thing basically. But I could definitely see them being a leader in that way, maybe being in charge of the new headquarters if they have one. I believe they still. Yeah. Oh no, that got destroyed in the end of Endgame, didn't it? That's where the final battle was. But I'm sure they'll build a different headquarters. They're always the headquarters. But anyways, I could see them, taking the lead in that, being the ones to train the new guys, stuff like that. But I think moving forward, yeah, I think they're together for the long haul. That's for sure.
Totally. Well, hey, our special guest is here, so
snap! Let him in.
We bring him on board.
It's exciting.
Here we go.
All right, waiting for the face reveal here. Oh, there
Hey
he is.
guys,
There he is.
sorry about that.
Oh, no worries, man.
If
We've
only
already-
that one person wouldn't have gotten in the accident, then I actually would have been able to show up here.
No
Well,
worries.
no problem. We just finished, so.
Oh,
I guess
great.
that's- yeah.
Okay, and goodbye.
So yeah, on behalf of the Starfighter podcast, we welcome our special guest, Hayden Galbraith. A little fun fact, as you know, a lot of our viewers might have noticed, most of our special guests are related to me in some capacity, and there's no exception here with Hayden. We are related by marriage.
Yep.
Hayden is my sister-in-law's nephew, so I don't know if you want to say nephew-in-law. That's probably the closest term you'd
I
use.
prefer
But
cousin because it makes me feel
Okay.
older, but we're related.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right, all right.
But in any case, we're friends, we're family, and it's good to hang out over Zoom, hang out with you on the podcast. So thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
So we've already started, gone over a couple points already, but let's go to you, Hayden, and ask you about like your initial thoughts on this episode 2.
Yeah, so I'll be honest. Episode 1, it felt like really standard. Like I didn't feel like there was any like big thing happening. But episode 2, for me at least, I was starting to like understand the show a whole lot more. I like the what is it? The flag smashers.
Smashers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smashers. Yeah. Well, I think that's something we'll end up talking about here soon, but I think a little background into them was super cool. So overall, I liked the episode a lot more than the first episode.
Really? So nothing really stood out to you in episode 1?
I mean, I don't
mean,
know.
that fight scene, the action scene in the beginning is really
the
good.
action scene was good, but I don't know. I'm just not like there was like nothing that like really caught my attention. There, it
Gotcha.
felt like kind of just like I'm watching like 3/4 of the way through a Marvel movie. Like what? I don't know. It didn't like speak to me at least not as much as the second episode. So I'm glad the second episode.
Yeah, no
came
worries.
out.
No, I've heard a lot of people like episode 1 better, and a lot of people like episode 2 better. So that's totally cool. Yeah, I think both are great. So where we are right now, we just finished up talking about how Bucky, is reintroduced to Sam, and now Bucky is going to help Sam on his mission to intercept the Flag Smashers. So they chase after them, and we have another fight scene here on top of these trucks. And so, Jake, I'll throw it over to you. What do you think about this fight sequence?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I did like before they even got there, Bucky pulls the whole Cap routine of jumping out of a plane without a parachute. That was great.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the superhero landing like Cap does, but no, the fight scene was cool. They definitely underestimated who these people were. They like in the last episode, they thought that one big guy was their leader. But it seems like the girl is in this episode, or at least the leader of this squad here. But yeah, that was definitely interesting to see it turn from her being the hostage. I think we kind of knew she was one of them. But yeah, and then I didn't necessarily expect New Cap and Battlestar to show up. And they actually held their own, surprisingly. I thought Battlestar was dead. Like, I didn't expect much of them. I didn't really expect them to hold their own. They did okay. They had some close calls. But yeah, a pretty cool sequence of events here.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, they all kind of get it handed to them. So
yeah, right.
But Hayden, what do you think about this fight scene?
So opposite of Jake, I did not think that she was I thought she was actually a hostage. I'm not very good at like, I see it coming. I'm more of like let me just watch and see what happens. So I didn't at all. I was like, what, it's just another twist in the plot. But then when she kicked Bucky out of the truck, I was a little more understood it a little more. I thought it was a super cool way to introduce the Flag Smashers as a whole, like, working together. And it wasn't like they all show up at one time. Like they're all kind of a part of each other. One's in the truck, some are driving. So I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, and I think that they said that they had like on board the trucks like medicine, right?
Yeah, vaccine. And I was like, oh, how applicable
Right,
society.
right. Almost like they planned that, huh?
Uh-huh.
Right.
Going back to more scenes with the Flag Smashers, we see that they're kind of like this super soldier family. And we get this other scene of, them gathering together in like some kind of like either house or bunker almost. And they're kind of getting taken care of with food and being able to sleep and get on the computer, try and plan out their next move. But Jake, what do you think about this scene? And now we have a little bit more context and background for them.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see. I do enjoy it when Marvel kind of gets into these villains who aren't necessarily bad people. Just kind of going about things the wrong way. But yeah, it seems like they're basically just trying to help out the little guy, which makes sense, with the governments of the world coming back after the blip. There's not necessarily going to be equality, and that's kind of what they're searching for. But it was interesting to see, how they interact with each other, that they're not just a bunch of brutes being terrorists and trying to change the world that way. They are, like you said, like a family, and they each have their own skills, which is cool to see. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to go into more of their characters, and especially the names it's escaping me on the girl's name, but yeah, like her backstory. I would have to guess she went through something traumatic to put her in this place in the first place. But yeah, it's definitely pretty interesting to see their goals and everything so far.
Yeah, definitely. Aiden, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think right as they introduce the group going into the house, and the husband and wife are like, oh, we made you our finest chicken livers. And it was like immediately you no longer viewed the group as like some terrible villain organization, because what terrible villain organization is invited to eat chicken livers with this couple that seems so nice and giving. So I think of Thanos in the sense of like, Thanos was a villain, yet his goal was like, he had a point, like his, wipe out half of everybody, and then all of the universe's resources are more balanced. So I think the way, like Jake was saying, these villains that like aren't necessarily villains, it's just they're going about it the wrong way. I think they have a lot of success with that, and I think it makes them a whole lot more relatable as a group when they're not some terrible group of people.
Yeah, definitely. And ironically enough, it kind of reminds me of some Star Wars stuff, because the actress that plays Carly plays Infus Nest in the Solo movie. But it reminds me, their group, the Flag Smashers, kind of remind me of Saw Gerrera and his band of rebels. But that particular team that he had, they were extremists. They were still kind of trying to fight for the same cause as the rebels, but they were extremists, and so they ended up fighting against them a few times. And I kind of see some similarities with the Flag Smashers here too. Like, some of their motives are good, and like Hayden said, they're just kind of going about it the wrong way.
Yeah, and now that you say that, it's like a funny memory of like trying to understand Saw Gerrera. Like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Like, I wasn't really quite sure.
So I think that definitely, adds some layers to Carly's character and some of her group, and I think that's pretty cool, making them a little bit more relatable. I think it's always nice to not just have like your typical standard villain, but kind of have them evolve a little bit and have like these layers where they have different motives, where in some respects that they could be seen as good. So I think that's cool. But now we got this trip to Baltimore. Bucky and Sam, they're over there, and Bucky wants to introduce Sam to this new character that we get. And this is a really cool, Easter egg. Doing my research, learned a little bit more about that. But Bucky takes Sam to meet Isaiah Bradley, played by Carl Lumley. Now, in the comics, Isaiah Bradley takes on the role of Captain America at one point. So it's called back to him, and then his son, Eli, who opens the door, he becomes in the comics Patriot, who is the leader of the Young Avengers. And so we're getting these little Easter eggs, and it's really cool because as we've seen even in WandaVision, it looks like they could definitely be setting up Young Avengers. We have Speed and Wiccan. Now we have this brief introduction with Patriot, and then Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye series coming later this year. So I'll throw it back over to Hayden. What do you think about this scene? This character, kind of this emotional moment with him as well. What do you think about all this and the Easter eggs?
I thought it was cool. A little bit before that, when the kids on the street were, my dad tells me to call you Black Falcon. And,
oh yeah.
I think it's interesting when, sorry, this is kind of on top. I'm getting to what you're saying, but when they
no, go ahead.
When they're able to kind of tie in current events in the world, and then being able to go into the situation of like the past. So, Bucky walks in there, and then it's like you were saying, this emotional reunion, for lack of a better term. I think it adds suddenly there's this new layer of depth. There's this whole story that we know nothing about, that it would be cool. You could have a whole show on the relationship between those two characters,
Yeah.
And I like when they set things up like that, because there's all these I wouldn't call them holes, but there's all these spots for just total expansion. And the Easter eggs I think are really cool, because you don't know that stuff unless you read the comics, unless you are really, really invested in all that stuff. So I think it's almost like an homage to the people who know all of that stuff. And then it's the cool little things of hey, I know that, but nobody else knows that. I think that's super cool. But kind of coming full circle, with it being in this neighborhood, it's how did Isaiah end up there, and what's just the whole story and this social situation in that area. So I don't know. I thought that was just a really cool moment, because it makes it real, realer than just here's this flying guy called Falcon and this guy with vibranium arm.
Yeah, definitely. And going along with your points there, Hayden, I'll throw it over to Jake, and maybe you can tell me your thoughts on this character of Isaiah Bradley, his relationship to Bucky, because he knew him formerly when Bucky was working under Hydra control. And so they were, at odds with each other. They were rivals at one time. And then afterwards, I think he said after the war, he was faced with, all this mistreatment from the government. Again, like he brought out, we see, these real life problems that we have today, with injustice and all that. And again, you can touch on the Easter eggs as well, Jake, but tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I think you guys very well covered basically what I was getting from this scene, but it kind of fell out of place. They didn't really accomplish much by going there in the first place. So there's always a reason for these scenes, right? But I definitely agree with what you were saying about Eli becoming Patriot and joining the Young Avengers. I could definitely see that happening. It does obviously seem like they're setting up for that, which I think would be pretty cool, because so far so good. I think they've all been very interesting. But yeah, it definitely does, like you're saying, have real world tie-ins. That's definitely a plot point in the first episode as well, with Falcon and his family dealing with what they are. And I think it really does have an overarching theme of the show, because isn't that what the Flag Smashers want? They want equality, basically. for just putting it simply. So really then it seems like they're on the same side in a way, because they're definitely trying to help these less fortunate ones. So I think it'll be interesting to see once Sam finds out their motives. I don't necessarily think he'd be enticed to join somebody like them, but he'll definitely be able to see their point of view and what they're trying to accomplish.
Definitely agree. A little fun fact about the actor Carl that plays Isaiah. He's in a lot of shows. I don't know if you guys have seen him before, but he's in a lot of like sci-fi and superhero stuff. And also, being a DC fan as well, he voices Martian Manhunter in the Justice League cartoons a few times. So it's kind of cool.
Nice. And what Hayden was saying about the whole Black Falcon thing, I do think that is a reference, because in the comics, this character Isaiah was called Black Captain America. They just put Black before his name, and so I feel like that's a little hint to that character, which was kind of funny, because I just liked how Sam handled it, talking to these kids and everything. It was a good scene.
So then following that up, the cops come out. They end up arresting Bucky because he didn't show up for his last therapy session. That's the whole deal that they made. They pardoned Bucky, but the terms are is that he has to be there for therapy. He can't skip out on that. And so he gets arrested, and ironically, who's there to bail him out is John Walter. It was kind of funny too, to see that. And then also immediately after that, the doctor shows up, his therapist, and says that she needs to have a meeting with Bucky and Sam. And I thought this was a really funny scene. Definitely had a lot of humor, but then towards the end, it also again got a little bit serious too. So really good mix here in this scene. But Hayden, what do you think about this interaction, this therapy session that they have?
Well, I know that therapist compared, I use this tactic with the couples that I help counsel. I thought it was funny, like when they're talking about, that they're going back and forth, and just how Bucky feels about Sam giving up the shield and all of that. And it was like, there was kind of through the episode, kind of this tension, obviously, between Bucky and Sam. And it was like that therapy session, they got to talk it out. So I just thought it was funny overall that she used marriage techniques, and then here they are talking like a married couple sharing the feelings.
Right. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. They definitely interact the same way that they did in Civil War, which was a highlight of that movie for sure. So really glad that they were able to keep that going. And then, yeah, like we talked about a little bit, why Bucky is so upset with this. Saying that he feels that if he was wrong about Sam, then he's definitely wrong about, or Captain America was wrong about him. After, everything that he's been through, we know Cap never gave up on him. So he definitely still needs that reassurance, from Captain America, even though he's passed, and now kind of from Sam, which is like, although they're not too good of friends, it's basically his only friend he's got besides the old Asian dude. So yeah, definitely help talking it out. And
Yori.
Yeah. Yori. Shout out to Yuri. Best character in the show so far. No, we need more Yuri. That was why episode 1 was better. But no,
yeah,
it was a really good scene for sure.
Definitely. So after this, John Walker tries to get them all, the four of them, to team up again, because he tries to, team up with them after they get their butts kicked from the Flag Smashers. So, they're still not having it. Like, no, we're not going to work with you. And so then he's like, all right, well, then you guys need to stay out of my way. And so I was telling you, Jake, earlier, we're kind of like questioning his motives a little bit. We're starting to see, for the most part, looks like, he's trying to do things right. But there were a couple little scenes. So there was this, and then there was also when he's talking to Sam, when John's talking to Sam and he says that he could really use Cap's sidekick or whatever, not sidekick, but something to that effect. And Sam's like, it's always that last line, you know. But so there's a couple just like little things that I don't know. I feel like are hinting to him maybe not being a good guy. But yeah, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. Jake, did you want to say anything more to that?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I mean, I don't have high expectations that he'll be part of the MCU moving forward. That's just kind of my feeling on it. But yeah, it would be a little strange to see him go full supervillain. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see whether, you know, like we were talking about before, if he happens to meet up with Zemo and Zemo can get in his head a little bit. Who knows? Maybe he won't be alive by the end of this show. But yeah, I think there's definitely something there that's going to cause him to make a mistake in some way, whether it's, you know, he definitely wants to become Captain America. Maybe he's tempted to take the super soldier serum and join the Flag Smashers in that sort of way just to get stronger. Because, yeah, you can't really be Cap without that part. But yeah, overall, not necessarily a terrible guy, but maybe we're just looking into it too much because I think we all expect him to be bad in a way because he's taking over for Cap. But yeah, he's definitely an interesting character so far. I like what it's given us in far as terms of like trying to speculate who he's going to be and what he's going to turn into.
Yeah, I have something more to say on that, but yeah, great points. And Hayden, did you have anything you wanted to mention?
So I mean, I guess I was kind of thinking the same thing. Like he has this arrogance, you know, when he walked into the or was that the police office, the department? Yeah. When the therapist was like, you know, how did he get out? And you know, he points to himself, and so he has this arrogance over everybody else, but like he knows he's not Captain America, and so it's like the Flag Smashers have all of the, you know, this serum, and it's like I was gonna say like it's like it's just there that he's gonna take it. He's gonna figure out a way to get it, in my opinion, because who wouldn't want to live up to him? And you know, he's saying on the Good Morning America, you know, I shadowed him, and I've done my best, and I feel like he's my brother, even though I've never met him. You know, and so I would say the same thing. I don't know if he's gonna go full bad guy, but there's something not quite right. It seems like to me, like something's gonna happen, and he's either gonna end up being the villain, and Falcon and Winter Soldier are gonna be with the Flag Smashers because they realize they're not all that bad. You know, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I don't think the way it's being painted right now is what it's gonna end up being, and you know, through the show.
Definitely. I want to touch more on the serum in a minute, but you reminded me of something. There's definitely this sense of entitlement with his character, which is not at all like Steve Rogers. I feel like it was the complete opposite, especially in the first Captain America movie. You know, he's just this humble guy, and obviously in the very beginning, he never thought that he would become Captain America and the symbol of hope, and you know, get the super soldier serum and become, you know, bigger and super strong and all this. I had a lot of humility, and complete opposite with John Walker. So all right, we'll move on next to one of our last scenes. The Flag Smashers, they're trying to make this getaway, and so Carly sends out one of her men to stop the power broker and his men. This is interesting. It's also another Easter egg too. I don't know too much about him, but from, you know, the research that I did, this guy is in the comics. He's the one that gives John Walker the serum. And so, like we mentioned before, that's a definite possibility, you know, to see him end up getting the serum maybe next week episode or something like that. But yeah, interesting scene. They take out that Flag Smasher soldier, and but the rest of them get away on the plane. Jake, what do you think about this scene?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting just to kind of throw that name out there because I definitely had to do my research on him after it because I didn't know who he was. But yeah, like you were saying, he does give powers to both John and Battlestar. I'm guessing that's where the Flag Smashers got their powers from. Possibly they stole it from him, and that's kind of why he's after them. I could see that being the case. But yeah, I do see him giving it to John at some points. But he has kind of an interesting history, Power Broker, because he does have the super soldier serum in a way, but it kind of went wrong in his experiments. So he kind of has an exoskeleton to help him move around. So it'll be interesting to see if that's what he looks like, because we only, got the name drop here. But I definitely could see him being more of the true villain in a way. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see more about him. We're definitely, getting different sides and different groups of really who's the true villain. Are they all bad in their own sort of way? How is it all going to play out? Because now we got Hydra sort of involved at the end here with Zemo and Flag Smashers and Power Broker and his group. So how they all tie together is going to be interesting, and really who might turn to the good side. Like I could see the Flag Smashers doing, or who knows, maybe Baron Zemo actually helps him out and is sort of good, but for his own agenda.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. You made some really good points there. So we'll throw it over to Hayden. What do you think? What do you think about this scene? And then, like Jake mentioned, all these different groups starting to stack up. Kind of a little bit similar to some things that they did in WandaVision to just kind of like throw us off. And again, now we're having this speculation on who is the real bad guy. So what do you think of this, Hayden?
In my head, the way I see it is Flag Smashers, Winter Soldier and Falcon versus John Walker and the Power Broker. Simply because, if they try to follow anything to do with the comics, if Walker gets the serum from Power Broker, and then you have Flag Smashers and Falcon and Winter Soldier, going against that, the whole thing ends up feeling kind of like Civil War, in the sense of now this new Captain America, everybody's going to look up to the new Captain America. So if Captain America gets, linked up with the Power Broker, who's evil, then here again, now we have Falcon, who ends up being bad because he's fighting against the new Captain America. So in the sense of like, what was that? The Sokovia Accords, all these Avengers end up being criminals because of what happens. I feel like that could happen again too, because Falcon and Winter Soldier fighting against the new Captain America, and then it becomes a thing because he made this big deal, like I am the government, and it's like you can just see that kind of going in the way of like, now Falcon and Winter Soldier are the bad guys, and they need to figure out how to get back into good light.
Some really good points, Hayden. Also, in one of the trailers, Bucky says something to Sam like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it our way. And so I think we're going to see that soon, and what that exactly means will be interesting for sure. But we move on to basically our final scene, the sequence here where we get back to Bucky and Sam, and they're talking about the super soldiers, and obviously who's going to know about it is Hydra, because they're heavily involved in that, as we know from Civil War and Bucky's background. They decide that they need to go and talk to Zemo, and so we cut to him in the prison, and that's how the show concludes. Jake, your thoughts on this last scene?
Yeah, just how it kind of all comes together with Zemo and everything like that. You could definitely see him being behind this, even from prison. Definitely a smart guy. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, do they bring him out of prison? Is that kind of the whole point, is he gets released in order to work with them? I think that would be really cool to see the three of them together, especially of how involved Bucky was in that whole thing. Falcon to a degree, but yeah, Bucky's definitely closer to the whole situation. But yeah, I'm just glad he's back and we have another chance to see him, because he was kind of underwhelming in a way in Civil War. But I definitely think, he's going to go all out in this show and become a really huge super villain like he is in the comics.
Yeah, Hayden, anything you want to add to that?
Same thinking. Like, I love Zemo as a villain. I think, another one of those villains that kind of, in a way, has a relatable reason as to why he did the bad things he did. And one, I just think that's cool. But two, I think he's just underrated as a whole. Like, he was involved a lot behind the scenes. And just because we see him, only in, I guess that's two movies. It's like he did a lot. There was a lot involved. So I think seeing him, if he became a much bigger villain, I think that would be super cool.
Yeah, I always liked that scene, in Civil War where he's kind of like telling Cap, Bucky, and Tony, like, his plan, and basically how if he can do something, do some damage from the outside, that's gonna hurt. But if he is able to intercept them and have them destroy themselves from the inside, then that's gonna last forever. The damage that happens then. It's cool to see, again, how this villain works, how his mind works, and really you have to give him credit there for being really smart. But yeah, that concludes the episode, and so now we can give a couple of predictions before we close out. If you guys have any thoughts on that. I know for me, yeah, I'm kind of thinking that maybe they do team up with Zemo somehow. And then I think, again, from what we've seen in the trailers, it looks like they're going to try to steal the shield back. Bucky and Sam, they're going to try to steal the shield back at some point. So what makes them, get to that point where it's like, okay, yeah, he has no right. I mean, obviously they already feel like he has no right, John, hanging on to the shield. But like, what sets them over the edge that now they really have to take action and just be like, no, we're not taking this anymore. I think we're going to see that soon, and excited to see Sharon Carter return as well. Yeah, so that'll be cool. I'm thinking that she'll probably end up coming in this third episode next week, so we'll see. But those are my thoughts. Hayden, what do you think? You have any predictions or speculation on next week or just going forward in general?
I mean, we have so many villains. We have the new Cap, we have the Flag Smashers, we have the Power Broker, we have Zemo. It's like there's so many bad guys right now. And I guess I'm just excited to see like who emerges as the real villain of, who is really driving the plot here and where does it go? At the beginning, everything's convoluted because they have to set up the story, but when the real villain gets revealed in whatever way that is, I hope it's a cool way, one. but two, I'm looking forward to seeing who that is and then how the show progresses after that.
Definitely. Jake, anything?
Yeah, there's just a few things that I would like to see. Just kind of to learn how Sharon, fits into this and kind of what she's been doing. Because if I remember correctly, I believe she was kind of on the run after, stealing their equipment and, giving the shields to Captain America before the final fight in Civil War and everything. So yeah, she definitely has a role in this as well. And kind of seeing what Zemo's been up to, if, has just been there all the time, if he's been working out a plan, and does he realize that he basically caused the snap? I think that's a whole interesting plot point, that him tearing the Avengers apart really caused them to lose in the first place. So if there's a reference to that in some way, I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, going forward with the show, I do kind of feel like Power Broker might be the real bad guy. And then I can kind of see it ending, since we're getting into all these, real world problems about equality and all these systemic issues. It really feels similar to Black Panther to me, where even though Killmonger was the villain, he was basically right. He was right all along that Wakanda needed to share its resources with everybody, right? So I could see an ending like that where, Flag Smashers probably end up being disbanded, but Falcon and Bucky understanding that what they were trying to accomplish was really a good thing, and how they move forward with their lives, trying to affect the world in that same sort of way. I could see that happening. And then I'd like it if Bucky, I feel like the Winter Soldier, he can never be called that. And that was a huge part of, the therapy session in the first episode, was that he has to say that he's no longer the Winter Soldier and he's not, a villain anymore. And then we get the reference earlier in this episode to White Wolf again. So I feel like he should just take on that name and become a real hero and kind of step out of the shadows and not be linked to his life as Winter Soldier anymore, because I'm sure he doesn't want to remember that either.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's interesting that you brought up White Wolf. And so I believe like that's a comic reference as well. I think Black Panther, he like kind of has like this adoptive white guy. He becomes his brother, and he gives him that name, White Wolf. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I think that'd be cool if he took on that name too. I still like the name Winter Soldier, but I guess we'll see what they end up doing. Well, guys, it's been fun. It's been a good episode here. We want to thank Hayden for coming on.
Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. So for our audio listeners and our viewers here on YouTube, we thank you guys. We ask that you'll continue to show us support here on the channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those platforms. And a quick little plug for my music. You can find me Moon Heist, Spotify, Apple Music, all those platforms. I have some new songs coming your way very soon. Special song, first song of the year, dedicated to my brother. So you can look forward to that. And you can stay tuned with my music pretty soon. Sometimes I'll put them in the description, a link to our stuff. Also, Jake and I do a live show on the Stereo app. If you guys haven't checked out Stereo, it's a really awesome app where you can do live podcasts, and it's really simple, and we can engage with the audience. They send in their own, audio messages and questions, and it's just a fun time. So I'll put that link in the description as well. Every Wednesday at about 6 p.m. We go on there and do a live show. But we'll be back next week to give our episode 3 of Falcon and Winter Soldier, episode 3 review. And that'll be great as well. Jake, anything you wanted to add, or?
Should I put mine in there? Yeah, go on YouTube and search JR Pokemon Trainer, and you'll see all these awesome videos of me playing Smash Bros. That's all I got.
All right, guys, it's been fun here at the Starfighter Podcast. We're signing out, but we will be back next week. And again, you can find us on Stereo this coming Wednesday, 6 p.m. We will catch you later.